Good morning. I'm very pleased to be here. It's an honor for me. I would like to thank very much the Hellenic ASHRAE chapter and also all the sponsors that make this conference possible. So I would like to take you to a very exciting journey, which is to manage the completion of a project from a commissioning perspective as a very good, efficient and quality way to deliver buildings meeting the owner request. And I will spend a little bit of time explaining what owner requests or owner requirements are. So I would be very pleased and delighted if your takeaways after my modest presentations are to understand the commissioning process, to know how supportive it could be for the success of the project, and also how to implement it and by whom. So I will go for some of the items or points that are in the slides. So for ASHRAE, commissioning is a very important topic. There are some people here, and I must say that probably is among the main 5 topics when it comes to the identification, elaboration, and development of technical resources by ASHRAE. So in terms of courses, publications, accreditation, name it. So I think that is a very important topic, and I would say one thing. First is to encourage the construction industry in Europe to use commissioning, because out of the UK, commissioning is not very much used in the sense or in the same direction as in the United States. And also for those young people or students, I will tell them that commissioning is a very exciting way to make a living. So here you can see some samples of the last publication released by ASHRAE. Guideline 0 and Guideline 1.2 have been released just a few weeks ago. Accreditation, so something that we should make a lot of emphasis in accreditation. In US, accreditation certification is important, but in Europe, not that important. And for instance, ASHRAE offer a very nice building commissioning professional certification. And I will recommend you to check that in the website, because it's very important, and it's on demand outside the US as well, in Asia, in India, in the Middle East, and now in Europe. Abbreviation, that is very important, and since I'm going to use this terminology, but I would like to make you familiar about it, because that is quite, you will see that terminology and abbreviation acronyms in the commissioning narrative and the commissioning publication. OPR, I will be obsessively mention OPR, owner project requirements, those specific technical needs of the owner for its building. When that is an evolution of this during the building life cycle, the requirement might change to CFR, that stands for Current Facility Requirements, so the requirement of the building today. Basis of design is the intent of the design to make possible or to deliver the OPR, the owner requirement. CX stands for commissioning process. Commissioning provided, that is a change in the commissioning terminology. Before that, it was a commissioning authority, commissioning agent, in the UK commissioning manager, but now it's very much accepted thanks to the influence of ASHRAE, the term CXP that stands for commissioning provider. Building management system, we all know. O&M, we all know. And also I would like also to make spend some time in testing, adjusting, and balancing, which is the testing regime for all systems and assemblies in a building. I must say that this term is used above all for HVAC and R, but testing is conducted or many assemblies and systems in a building, and the building itself can be subjected to testing as previous to the building handover. Darrell, let me borrow from you some slides from your presentation when you became president of ASHRAE 3 months ago. You said, well, great design do not always deliver great operation buildings. And you mentioned some reason. One reason was a poor design focus on operation. Too complex systems and BMS or control systems. Design exceeding the capacity of the operation and maintenance staff to manage the building. And another reason important is poor commissioning. So my lecture will be based on explaining how we can implement the commissioning process and, in consequence, deliver high-performing buildings. Definition. Guideline 0 proposed a good definition that is very much international accepted, saying that commissioning process is a quality or systematic process consisting of verifying and documenting that the system and assemblies of a building are planned, designed, built, tested, operated, and maintained according to the owner project requirement. And I will mention this term several times during my lectures. But you know what? My favorite definition about commissioning is the process that makes sure owners get what they have paid for. Let me explain that. The owner is not paying for a chiller. He's paying to have the right indoor climate. So indoor climate is an owner project requirement. And a chiller is a means. Clear definition of the owner project requirement. This is probably you have seen that slide several times. This is probably how an owner explains what they want. This is how it is designed. This is how it is built. This is how the quality is supervised. This is how it's managed. This is how maybe it's developed. That is how it's tested. This is how it is built. And this is how it is delivered. When in reality, the owner needed that. So that is why it's so important to define the owner project requirement. And spend time, they have to be crystal clear, and spend time on that. And then addressing the type of building, the use, the requirement for the user, but also some very important requirements about energy efficiency, sustainability, indoor environment quality, safety, security, acoustic, aesthetic, redundancy, reliability, flexibility, scalability. All these requirements should be very clear, identified in the OPR in order to have a very good document. Without that document, the commissioning process is not possible. And I would say that probably the OPR are the heart and the soul of the commissioning process, and even more of the success of the whole project. So that is a document that should be prepared by the owner and reviewed by the commissioning provider team. What the commissioning process objectives? First of all, is in reality to understand the OPR and to establish and to set a solid strategy to deliver as a final product a building meeting the OPR. How? Important, as part of the commissioning process, is to verify the ability of the design, the construction, the operation and the maintenance of the building to meet the OPR. Then, how? Developing and integrating the commissioning strategy into the project. Verify that the building performs according to the expectation stated in the OPR document. Verifying that the O&M staff is well trained to manage the building. Review all documents, but basically the system manual, I will explain it a bit later, and deliver the specific commissioning report. The two last one is the final commissioning report and the continuous ongoing commissioning program during the building life cycle. Let's then go through the different phases of the project and see how the commissioning has to be implemented. First commissioning activity at the pre-design phase is owner duty, which is basically to nominate, appoint, designate, hire a commissioning provider, so a big leader for the commissioning process. That is extremely important. Second duty is also by the owner, which is to develop a clear OPR document, owner project requirement. Let me repeat it. For that purpose, is going to be supported by the commissioning provider. Then define the scope of the commissioning and allocate a budget for the commissioning activity. Another important activity is to develop an initial commissioning plan that is going to be updated in the course of the project. And last but not least is to review the commissioning lesson learned from previous project. Probably you have seen this diagram I'm showing here, which is that when you do something at a very early stage, costs much less than when you do it at the last minute. For commissioning, it's the same. The later commissioning joins the project, the more expensive it is to get the OPR back on track. System to be commissioned. That is part of the commissioning scope by the owner. And it's so it's to identify the assemblies, the system to be commissioned. Normally, mechanical, HVAC&R, fire protection, plumbing, water, electrical, including, of course, emerging power generators, UPS, etc., but also elevators, also security and safety system, and now is becoming very, very important to commission the envelope of the building is fundamental. Role of the commissioning provider. As I said, the first owner duty for commissioning is to nominate someone to lead the process. Rarely the owner can find someone at its organization to take that role. And normally she or he must go out to the market to find a professional commissioning provider. Important, he or she should be independent. Independent from the commissioning team, independent from the contractors and manufacturers, and independent from the maintenance company to avoid conflict of interest. The ideal commissioning provider should be someone with a deep knowledge on commissioning. A credential having an accreditation is most welcome. It's important that say, I'm not a commissioning provider because I say so. No, it's because I have an accreditation, an international accreditation. But also some other important selection criteria are to have knowledge about design, construction, operation and maintenance, have some communication skill. The commissioning provider is someone or group of individuals that has to communicate challenging message into the project team, and also he should have, or she should have some skills about managing people, because at the end of the day, it's going to be someone managing the commissioning provider team with some responsibility. ASHRAE Guideline 0 mentioned some scoring methodology to nominate a good commissioning provider or to select a good commissioning provider from a bunch of candidates or to benchmark the one they have. For instance, accreditation as a credential, knowledge about, as I said, knowledge about commissioning and some other trades or discipline. And also it's important to check some pieces of work from previous projects. Yeah, show me your commissioning plan in that project. Show me your final commissioning report. It's good to go through it in order that the owner has a better understanding of what this individual, this commissioning provider, agent, or company is able to deliver. But it's not a commissioning provider is not a one-man show. It's a teamwork. It's a band. Huh? So, and then after the nomination of the leader of the commissioning provider, some important position should be nominated as part of the commissioning provider team, and should be representative from the different project team in the project itself. So representative from the owner, design team, occupant, project manager, construction manager, some individual belonging to this team should be part or member of this important team, having some specific commissioning responsibility. And as you can imagine, some of the members will come in and out depending on the project phase. So at the pre-design phase, we don't have any contractor, any manufacturer, and we don't have the appointed the O&M staff. But in other phases, for instance, at the occupancy and operation phase, probably the design team has vanished. So I think that this member will come in and out depending on the project phase, as I said. Commissioning plan. The commissioning plan is a fundamental deliverable in the commissioning process. Should mention, of course, the overview and the scope of the commissioning process, the assemblies and system to be commissioned, the commissioning provider team and all the members belonging to that, should also mention the budget for the commissioning activities, and also the different commissioning activities per project phase, and at the end, the deliverables. It's important to say one thing. It's done by the commissioning provider and, of course, approved by the owner. This document is going to be updated. And at the end, it will become the final commissioning report. Basis of design. That is a very important document as well. So the basis of design is a document describing the concept, expectations, objectives, calculations, and product selection in order to meet the owner project requirement, to satisfy the applicable regulations, and also to meet some selected standard guidelines and best practices, right? So it should include as well some narrative about the description and some list of items supporting the whole design process. That is done by the commissioning, by the design team, reviewed by the commissioning provider, and of course, as always, approved and paid by the owner. Commissioning activities at the design phase. The main and most important commissioning activity at this phase is to review the BOD, so the basis of design. So to check or to verify that the basis of design, so the intent of the design, is compatible with the OPR. So is the design make possible to deliver the owner requirements? And that review of the design solution should be made at 35, 50, and 95% of design process completion. So 3 phases to carry out the design review. But there are some other things to address during this design review. Is the availability of measuring device? Is the commissionability? Is the maintainability of the design, such as the accessibility? The equipment could be replaced, will be repaired, can be just a change some components. So these things need to be also reviewed during the design review, as well as I mentioned, the scalability, flexibility, redundancy, all these kind of things need to be checked during the design phase by the commissioning provider. Important also, and part of these commissioning activities at this phase is to include in the construction document released by the design team a draft of the construction checklist, a draft of the test, and a draft of the training requirement for the O&M staff. Specification is exactly what should be included in the construction document that we will be handed out among the potential candidate to be the contractor of the project, and including the commissioning responsibility of the contractor, and some requirements related to planning, submittal, contractor resources for testing procedures, training requirements, and also about deliverables that need to be done by the commissioning provider or reviewed by the commissioning provider, as well as some sampling strategy to validate or to verify or to validate the test result. That is done and proposed by the commissioning provider and approved by the owner. Commissioning activities during the construction phase. Submittals. Verify that the submittals have the ability to meet the owner project requirement. Update the commissioning plan, the OPR, and the BOD need to be updated during this phase as well. Important is that to verify at this phase that the system and assemblies of the building are properly delivered, installed, tested, operated, and maintained according to the OPR. That also the operation documentation is delivered to the O&M staff, and this staff is well trained to manage the building. So that is the main commissioning activity during this phase. There are some documents. I will go through this, let's say, important commissioning document as the issues log and resolution, which is that the purpose of this log is to record all the happening, all the finding, all the issues with a number, a short description, and responsible to resolve it and to expected date of resolution. You know what? This log should be, there will be no outstanding log at the occupancy and operation phase. But we need not to delete the issue. We need just to cross a red line. But we have to keep that in order to see the historical of those happening of issues, in order to have maybe some information when we decide to make a design modification or whatever in your building. So it will be plenty of red line, but no outstanding issues at the end of the process. Commissioning report should mention the commissioning activity that has been completed, important, and those findings, outstanding findings, that can affect the achievement of the owner project requirements. And of course, these issues log I have mentioned before, done by the commissioning provider and approved by the owner. That is also very important, is a checklist, a construction checklist during the construction, which is basically a form that is used by the various teams to verify that the right material, component, equipment are delivered and are available on site, or ready to be installed, or ready to be tested, or they are working and then they are performing and maintained according to the OPR. Done by the contractors and manufacturer, reviewed by the commissioning provider, and approved by the owner. System manual, that is very important. And you know, this deliverable is missing very many times in the commission, but it's fundamental. And which is the objective of this manual is, there are some objectives. First of all, is to provide to the O&M staff, to the operation and maintenance staff, information about the design and the construction and how the building needs to be operated and maintained. To assemble in one set of documents all the information related with the design, construction, and test. Also be a source to develop the training material, and also be a fundamental information for building performance improvement and to prepare the ongoing commissioning program. Done by the contractors and manufacturers, reviewed by the commissioning provider, and of course approved by them. Without that document, all or almost all commissioning benefit will disappear in the occupancy and operation phase. Training program, fundamental as well. So is first of all to address those system, subsystem, assemblies, equipment that need to be that we need to provide training to the O&M staff. The minimum capacities and knowledge of the potential operation and maintenance member of the staff. Designed very well, with very detailed care, the training session, schedule, program, instructors, venue, whatever, in order that we have a very, very specific training for the OM staff and on the occupant as well. And also to deliver some measurable learning objective in order to validate or to measure the specific knowledge that the operation and maintenance staff and the occupant or user are expected to acquire during the training sessions. That is also very good. Once again, I mean, just let me tell you, so because it's not for the commissioning, but it's important that we have the right people driving a building. We thought that we can have a Ferrari driven by someone who just got his driving license. Testing handover, that is very important. At this specific moment, the owner will look at the commissioning provider leader and say, and ask, can I take over my building? And the owner expects a positive answer. So, is to prove that the building can be occupied since the owner project requirements are met. And also to prepare the takeover transition from the commissioning team to the operation and maintenance staff. At the final phase of, which is the life cycle of the building, is of course to complete the commissioning outstanding activities or issues, to conduct what we call the seasonal defer testing, because it had not been able, because well, the building was delivered in April and no summer load was available to make possible the summer testing. Complete documentation, take any single opportunity to further improve the performance of the building, prepare a solid ongoing commissioning plan, and of course benchmark energy use of the building and track building performance over time. Have a very solid program to check and to evaluate if the building is used the expected energy. So that is a bit of a recap of the commissioning process. So review, prepare a commissioning plan, review design, review construction, verification, validate training of the O&M staff, testing result validation, resolve outstanding issues, review system manual and deliver commissioning documentation, handover, as I said, and during the final phase, complete the seasonal testing, prepare a very solid program on continuous commissioning, and to have a continuous training. We shouldn't forget that there is a rotation, turnover of the member of the O&M staff, and we need to have a continuous commissioning. There are some equipment that can be changed, there is a technology improvement, performance improvement, and we need to subject the members of the O&M staff to continuous training. And then if it's a change on the OPR, because during the building life cycle, imagine new owner, new tenant, more sustainability restriction or energy efficiency, then it can happen that these original requirements have changed. And then we have a building that is meeting the OPR of 10 years ago, but is not delivering today's requirement. And then in that case, we need maybe to perform a retro-commissioning or a commissioning of an existing building to get the building back on track. That is a bit of the document that need to be delivered by the commissioning provider team and to be reviewed by the same team. Ongoing commissioning is also very important at the occupancy and operation phase. It's a continuation of the commissioning process into the occupancy and operation phase. And the idea is to verify that the building meets the current facility, the today's requirements. And that is the result of this is to schedule some specific activity to carry out during the building life. It's about track performance and energy use, measure and act. Type of commissioning, my lecture has been just in delivering new buildings, but you can subject to commissioning a building that was poorly commissioning at due time, or you have retro commissioning when you have a building that had never been commissioning, or you can have this opportunity of an existing building commissioning is to get a building back on track according to the current facility requirement, and this program continuous ongoing commissioning program after the building is delivered, but being subjected to a quite a specific commissioning process. Key factors for success. Hire a professional and accredited commissioning provider at a very early stage. Don't wait to the last minute, at the beginning. Have a full support of the owner. That is absolutely fundamental and essential. Without the support of the owner, I mean, they will not understand, and it will be a complete disaster to implement the commissioning process. Spend time and spend budget. Integrate the whole commissioning strategy into the project. Have monitor obsessively the achievement of the OPR during the project phase. Get the operation and maintenance staff on board as soon as possible. I will recommend 3 months before the testing regime is scheduled, right? Update the system manual. Have a continuous training program for the operation and maintenance staff, and have a good perspective of commissioning during the building life cycle with a very consistent ongoing commissioning program. The benefit, we all know, we have a building performing according to the OPR. We have a less callback to the contractor at the warranty period, less complaint, more productivity, more comfortability, name it. Lower operation costs, operation and maintenance staff having a deep knowledge on how to manage and even improve the operation and maintenance of the building, reduce downtime thanks to the diagnostic of potential failures, and of course, I mean, that have the ability, since we have a quite solid and enhanced documentation, to implement any design modification or construction that we can undertake. So, commissioning, we all agree that is a best practice. But it could be just an average practice, a good enough practice, a good or a great practice. You know what? This is not in the hand of the commissioning provider. It's in the hand of the owner, spending the right time and spending the right money in implementing a successful commissioning process. Thank you very much.